Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back again to bring you the 8.1 Holy Priest Guide. Everything you need to know about the spec in the battle for Dazar'alor and beyond. Alright, going into it, Holy Priest is that standard blueprint healer. It's able to do just a little bit of everything and be able to pump out quite a bit of HPS, and was especially dominant in the Old Year raid. Going on to Dazar'alor, it doesn't look like there's too many things that will be changing that, although there have been some talent changes and adjustments, along with some new Azerite traits that will be kind of switching and changing the spec just a bit. Going into it, the talents on the 15 tier, Enlightenment will be your go-to for raiding, while Trail of Light will be your pick for Mythic Plus. Feather on the 30 tier is just your go-to overall for mobility, and often, even though it competes with Angel's Mercy, a solid defensive, usually it'll be better to have the greater mobility from Feather that will allow you to more easily move out of danger instead. Cosmic Ripple is a substantial HPS increase on the 45 tier for raiding, with Guardian Angel being strong utility for Mythic Plus. The 60 tier is more crowd control focused. In Mythic Plus, you'll either take Psychic Voice or Shining Force or Censure. With raids, you'll most likely be taking Shining Force in case there's any adds that need to be bounced or moved around. On the 75 tier, Surge of Light is extremely powerful for Mythic Plus, as it helps shore up a weaker spot with Holy Priest in movement. So being able to have a bit of movement healing is especially helpful, especially on a singular target, with Circle of Healing being the go-to pick for raiding. Binding Heal, after a series of substantial nerfs in terms of mana cost and healing done going into 8.1, Binding Heal is no longer the meta pick to go for, and instead you'll be using quite a bit of Circle of Healing in a raiding environment. On the 90 tier, Benediction and Halo are both viable picks for raiding, with Divine Star as an option if everybody is going to be perfectly stacked up, all nice and tight for you, to be able to use frequently with high value. Pretty unlikely going into the new raids, but it could possibly see some play. On the 100 tier, Light of the Naru and Apotheosis are both pretty competitive for the Mythic Plus environment, although Apotheosis often gives you that extra cooldown that you'd really like to be able to have. Holy Road Salvation, even after many nerfs to it, is still an incredibly powerful ability, and is an immensely strong cooldown to have on progression, so you will often be going with Holy Road Salvation for raiding. These talents are going to be your more or less default cookie cutter type builds that you'll be going for, and the focus is going to be on optimizing your AoE damage while having a little bit of support for the single target as well. Gear wise and stats, Holy Priest is really going to be enjoying lots of mastery and critical strike. Often in progression you'll see very high amounts of mastery for Holy Priests, and then they'll start switching over or slowly start balancing mastery and crit ratings through enchants or rings optimization to be able to more balance or even go more in favor of critical strike as they get onto farm content and as Echo of Light becomes a bit less effective. Your mastery, in terms of the extra trickle healing that it can provide, is incredibly powerful for early progression rating, but then kind of teeters off and most people will start going into crit as it becomes less effective or starts overhealing more, or damage becomes a little bit more bursty. In terms of what gear and items you want to be picking and selecting, a lot of your intellect slots like gloves, belt, boots, etc., the non-Azerite pieces, often you will want to be prioritizing item level. Usually if a close example, say 5 or 10 item levels, and I had way too much haste, in the high teens or something like that, then maybe I would start going for the item that's maybe a little bit lower item level, that has a little bit less intellect on it, but preferable stats. But in general, much higher eye level differences, you will go after the highest eye level piece, and then further optimize your stats by getting different rings. It'd be very easy in 8.1 Dazar'alor raid to be able to optimize what rings you'd like to have. Through jewel crafting, you'll be able to have a great deal of control over creating the rings and being able to further optimize them and have sockets guaranteed. But if you choose not to, you can always go into Mythic Plus and focus on specific dungeons that have heavy crit or mastery rings available to you, and that will allow you to be able to move around your stats and switch around to what you would like to go with. For a list of trinkets and Azerite pieces that you want to be prioritizing on, for the most up-to-date information, be sure to check out my written guide down in the description below. That will be constantly updated as we're going into the battle for Dazar'alor, and as tuning changes inevitably happen to both trinkets and Azerite pieces. Going into gameplay, Now, while you are able to take the optimal talents, you are able to start focusing on building the best set of gear possible. For a healer, the real difference maker is going to be on your playstyle, and Holy Priest is no exception there. So important to be able to follow the fundamentals of the spec, to be able to churn out as much healing as you possibly can. And that starts really with your Holy Words. Your Holy Words in both Serenity and Sanctify are immensely powerful abilities and are the top 2 in your priority list for what you need to be using as often as possible. While they have a high cost, if you're using them efficiently, they are well worth it and are extremely mana efficient in terms of the healing that they bring. If you're healing efficiently, they should be, some of your top heals and should be providing a huge amount of Echo of Light from your mastery on top of that. After that, in your priority, Prayer of Mending also follows suit as being an incredibly efficient ability to be able to use, and because it only heals a target once they've actually taken damage, you'll be able to use Prayer of Mending on cooldown, no question. As long as you're casting it onto a target that's likely to take damage soon, like a tank, you should be able to get it bouncing and getting value in no time. Circle of Healing will follow in the priority system. Whenever you're seeing AoE damage going out, be sure to use your Circle of Healing on cooldown. And then following that, you're going to be having Flash, Prayer of Healing, and Regular Heal, all sort of competing in each other in this sort of filler time. Renew can sometimes appear. If you're on the move, you're going to be able to cast it on a target that's constantly taking damage, but you'll often not use it very frequently. It will be something that, when there's nothing else to cast, it can be worth using. Flash, Prayer of Healing, and Heal, though, often will make up a lot of your activity time in between your Holy Words or any of the other abilities that you're frequently using on cooldown. With this, Flash and Prayer of Healing can often be your mana dumps and are going to cost quite a bit of mana, but also give you your Holy Words back more frequently. If any kind of targets are lower health, they need healing immediately, Flash will be that they cast if there's immediate damage. Prayer of Healing you can always pre-cast, so you're casting it so it hits right after damage hits to be able to get that instant sort of value, and of course getting greater cooldown reduction through Serendipity to be able to reduce the cooldown of Holy Word Sanctify. Heal is often an extremely mana efficient ability that you will be more or less of a filler. While it does have a long cast time, it can do a substantial amount of healing, and because you regen a lot of mana over this very hefty cast time, it further allows you to stretch out your mana in downtime so that you'll be able to spam a little bit more with Flash or Prayer of Healing, be able to get your Holy Words back more frequently, to use them again and get further value from them whenever there's heavy damage going out onto the group there. So Heal definitely needs to be weaved into your rotation quite frequently whenever there's low downtime, and of course will bring your Holy Word Serenity back off cooldown more rapidly, so if one target just takes an instantly big hit, you're able to instantly cast Serenity onto them to quickly get them topped off again. When you're at the end of your rotation, you'll be able to smite and add a bit of damage. Holy Fire and Chastise can add up to be quite a bit of mana spent, so if you're trying to stretch out your mana cost, then using Smite will be your best option because it is free. Holy Priest also has the double raid cooldowns through Divine Hymn and Holy Word Salvation, and a lot of times you want to coordinate with the rest of your group on when you want to be able to prioritize these. On longer encounters of 5+ minutes, you're going to make sure you're wanting to use your Salvation a little bit earlier on in the encounter, because even with the extra cooldown reduction changes, the 12-minute baseline cooldown of Salvation usually can get reduced to around 5-ish minutes, maybe even 6 if it's taking a little bit longer on these encounters to be able to use again. So if you're able to use it early on and you can guarantee a second to cast, then it can be incredibly helpful to your group during early progression there. Divine Hymn has the baseline 3-minute cooldown, so make sure you're coordinating with your group and make sure you're finding a moment to be able to stand still and channel the entire ability and not clip it early, right? It will have 5 pulses over the duration of the cast, so it's very important to be able to find somewhere to stand that's going to be out of the way of other players or AoE effects. You'll be able to get that full channel to completion. Symbol of Hope, similarly, is incredibly utility to the group, and with the potential to get a second cast off, can further increase its value. Because Symbol of Hope's mana is based off of missing mana from the target, it's also important to know that you want to be using this near the end of the encounters. That way you'll be able to give players just a bit more mana to be able to work with. And if you have the option, for example, of using it early on to guarantee another use later, that can be very powerful as well. So start working with your raid group, but if you're in a more short encounter, 3 or 4 minutes, you will just use it near the end of the said encounter to help out your team and get a little bit more value back to them. Holy Priest has been an absolute pleasure to play from Legion going in to Battle for Azeroth, and it has kept a lot of the same abilities and a lot of the same setup going into it. This has been one of the first times in a while since we're not taking advantage of Binding Heal anymore, and with that you'll have to be weaving and mixing in a little bit more different abilities from Flash, Prayer, Healing, and Heal to further optimize your healing output and to be able to be more successful in a raiding environment. Or you can always check out the live stream where we'll be broadcasting all of our Mythic raiding progression as we're going through the Battle for Dazar'alor. So be sure to check that out as well. For now, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We're back on track to making YouTube videos, and I appreciate everyone's patience with them. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll catch y'all next time.